Every writer has a moment where they wonder, how come I'm not getting where I want to go? If that's where you are right now, stay tuned. I've got a story to tell you. There was once a little elf named Corin. He was a determined little guy with dreams of reaching Euphoria, a legendary land where writers finished their books and finally became the artists they were meant to be. One morning, Corin set out. He climbed the high hill, pushed his way through the brambled forest, crossed over the wide river, and came to a crossroads. Two paths, and he didn't know which one was going to lead him to Euphoria. The left one disappeared into the mist. The right one looked a little more familiar, so he took the right one. By nightfall, he was back home again. The path had brought him in a perfect circle. He was a little disappointed, but he was safe and it was okay. So he decided he'd try again the next day. Next day, he tried again. Climbed the high hill, went through the brambled forest, crossed the wide river, and came to the crossroads. He stands there and he thinks for a while. He really wants to get to Euphoria. As he looks down the road into that mist, he thinks, well, I'm not sure I'm ready today. So he takes the right road and he goes back home. The next day, he does the same thing. Heads out, climbs the high hill, goes through the bramble forest, crosses the wide river, reaches the crossroads, stands there for a long time, thinking, really wants to go to Euphoria. That's gotta be the way to Euphoria. I just can't see Euphoria through that mist, but that's gotta be the way. I gotta go check it out. Well, I'm just not ready. Or I'm not up to it. Or I'm a little tired. Or I forgot to bring my bottle of water. Every day he has an excuse. Every day he takes the right road and goes back home. The question is, why? Why does he keep going back home when he knows that he wants to go to Euphoria? That is the question that I'm thinking you might need to ask too. Because my writing friend in this story, you are Corin. You say you want to be a successful writer. You've done the work. You've come a long way. But when it's time to take the next step, you hesitate. We're going to talk about this quiet resistance that shows up at that crossroads. It's one that most writers don't even notice. But once you learn how to recognize it, you might finally be ready to choose that other path. So what is this resistance that I'm talking about? And why does it so often stop writers from reaching the level of success they want to reach? Remember Corin? He wants to reach Euphoria. He keeps showing up and he keeps doing the hard parts. He keeps going up the hill. He keeps going through the bramble forest. He keeps crossing this wide river. But the moment he has to choose an unfamiliar path, something in him pulls back. Taking that path, it asks him, and it's asking you, to step into something unknown. Ultimately, to stop being the version of yourself that never arrives and become the one who actually does. And that's what resistance really is. It's a fear of change. Not change in your writing routine, not change in what software you're using or what computer you've got. I'm talking about deep-rooted internal change. The kind that kind of tends to threaten who you think you are right now, but the kind that calls you to become something new. Here's the thing. Success doesn't just give you something new. It asks you to let go of something old. And that something is often part of your identity. And that's the part that we don't see. So I'm going to talk in this next section about how getting to the next level in your writing career often means that you have to let go of where you are right now to become who you want to become. And that can be a little scary, and we don't think about it. We don't realize this in the moment. We don't sit down and say, well, I'm going to procrastinate on my writing today because I'm scared of becoming this other person who would be a successful writer. I don't feel ready for that. We don't say that. We just procrastinate, or we decide we're too busy to write, or we're not ready to submit that story. It needs another round of editing. So we're going to talk about how this resistance is really about your identity and who you are, and how you can change your mindset to embrace this change rather than run away from it. So right now, you are the aspiring writer, and maybe you've carried this version of yourself for years. And I think we all do this to some extent while we're working on those novels, and we're trying to get them to where we can publish them. Or maybe we've published a book or two and we haven't reached the level of success we want to. We see ourselves as this work in progress, the same way we have from the day we picked up the pen or we picked up the keyboard and we started typing stories. We haven't really shifted that identity. We still see ourselves as this person who is striving toward this goal. And in a way, there's comfort in that. That may sound strange, but you're comfortable with that person. you're familiar with this version of yourself. We know what to expect. We know the kind of life that this kind of writer lives. But once you become a successful writer, whatever success means to you, once you reach that goal, it's different. And you may be a little frightened of that. Part of you might be a little afraid that success is going to cost you something somehow. Maybe it's going to rob you of your creative freedom, or it's going to take more time than you want to spend, or it's going to somehow rob you of your peace because now there's going to be these expectations, or maybe even your sense of who you are, you're afraid will change if you actually reach this level that you think you want to reach. And so all of these conflicting feelings, even though some of them are unconscious and you may not be aware of them, create this resistance. And if you don't see it for what it is, you're going to keep getting stuck. You're going to keep taking that right road that's going to bring you right back to who you are, instead of expanding into who you could become by taking that left road into the mist. So let's talk in the next section how we can start recognizing this hidden resistance, because usually it is not in our awareness. So we're going to talk about how you can see if this might be going on in your life right now. Chronic procrastination, especially when you're really ready to move forward. Maybe you've perfected this novel as much as you can perfect it and it's ready to be submitted and you're not submitting it. Or maybe you've had it edited, you've had it proofread, it's ready to be self-published and you're not publishing it. Maybe you've created a short story, it's ready to be submitted to a journal and you're not submitting it. Or maybe you're almost done with your novel, all you got to do is finish the last chapter and you're not finishing it. Chronic procrastination, that's one sign of this invisible resistance. Another sign that's really well disguised is that you're stuck in endless learning. You think you're improving yourself. Here's another workshop. Here's another conference. Here's another convention you're going to. Here's another book you've bought that you're learning from. Here's another group you've joined to improve your writing. These things look like productivity. And in the beginning, they are. But if you're doing that and only that, and your career is not moving forward, you're just sitting here in this learning and discovery and exploration phase, that's another sign of hidden resistance. Third sign is that you are shying away from opportunities. Maybe someone asked you to come speak at a writer's event. Maybe you had a chance to do a signing at a local event. Maybe another writer wanted you to go with them to a book festival of some sort to sell your work. Whenever these opportunities are coming up, you're feeling uncomfortable. When you first see them, you're like, oh, maybe, and then you're like, well, no, I'm not ready. Telling yourself, I'm not ready, that's a really common sign of resistance. If you're not diving in and willing to experiment, willing to put yourself out there, that's resistance. And that's a sign that this identity thing is going on in the background. If you're still not sure if this might be happening for you, I got one big question for you to ask yourself that's going to reveal the answer to you. Okay, so you ready? Ask yourself this question. If I succeeded and my writing career took off tomorrow, what might I be afraid might happen? And answer that question honestly. Nobody's going to see your answers but you. You might hear fears like this. I'd be afraid I might lose my time, or that I might be more visible and that scares me, or that people would expect more of me and I don't know if I could deliver. Okay, these answers might come up when you're free writing on this, or other answers that are similar to that. And if they do, then that's just a sign that you got this identity type of resistance going on. And that's okay. It's good actually, because if you can see it and you can name it, then you can get past it. So in this next section, we're going to talk about, okay, if this is happening and if you're seeing this, how do you get past it? We're going to tackle that. So step one is to name what you're afraid to lose. And you just did that if you answered that question. Success, we think it's all going to be about what we're going to gain. We're going to sell more copies. We're going to make more money. We're going to have more notoriety. We're going to have more respect. We think about all these things we're going to gain. But in the back of our minds, we're also thinking about what we could lose. And not just about what we could lose, but what we think we might lose. So if you think again about that question, if I become a successful writer, what part of my current identity might I lose? So we're not just talking about losing your time or losing your peace of mind. We're talking about losing a part of yourself. Because in order to become the successful writer, you essentially have to become the next version of yourself. You have to evolve. And you can't evolve without shedding the old skin. You can't evolve without losing a little bit of that old identity. So step one is to name what you think you might lose and write that down on a piece of paper. You've written down what you think you might lose. Second step is to reframe that fear and to ask yourself, is that really true? Would I really lose that? So if you are afraid you might lose your freedom, if I become the successful writer I want to become, how can I still protect my freedom? You can brainstorm on that. And when you do that, it can kind of help you feel more relaxed about this identity change. If I'm not really going to lose my creative freedom, if I'm just afraid I am, then I'm more willing to go ahead and go through this evolution. If you fear being judged, which we all do as writers to some extent, but if that is holding holding you back and that's creating this resistance? Can you build a support system that would help you stay grounded so that even if you do feel a little bit more judged as you become more visible, which may happen, you're going to be okay with that. You can learn how to deal with it. You don't have to deal with it now. And a lot of times when we don't have to deal with it now, we think we couldn't deal with it if we had to. Or we think, I don't really want to deal with it. Or I don't know if success is worth having to deal with it. Those kind of things can go through your brain. So if you can look at the things you're afraid of and say, you know what, I could deal with this. Or I could put this in place to make this easier to manage. Then you can lower the level of some of the fear and anxiety that can surround that sort of identity change. Okay, so step 3, and this is kind of the fun and exciting one. Part of any sort of evolution that involves an identity change is scary, but the other part is exciting because you are growing into something new. And that means exciting changes and new things coming at you and great new opportunities and things that you get to be a part of. So this third step taps into that positive part of the process. So the third step is not to try to jump into this new version of yourself all at once, because that's overwhelming and that's why your brain tends to push back. Instead, it's to take one small action as the new writer you want to be would take. You want to act as if you're this new version of yourself, but only for a small portion of the day. So if you're a successful writer, you want to ask yourself, what would that person do? And maybe if you got a writing session that day, maybe it's as simple as seeing yourself as that successful writer. You're going to sit down, you're going to feel confident about this new chapter you're going to write because you know what you're doing. You're a successful writer. So off you go typing that chapter. And it's funny how that small of a mindset change, seeing yourself as the successful writer, can make that writing session feel better. Or maybe it's that you have an opportunity in front of you and you say, how would this successful version of me respond to this opportunity? The me I am now is shying away from it, but the successful version of me was, oh, sure, I'll do that. That'd be great. So in that moment, you make the choice to say yes to that opportunity instead of no. You make the choice to submit your manuscript instead of hold it back. And then you just kind of let it go and you can go back to the self that you are now. These little steps along the way are going to help you become this new version of yourself that you down deep want to become. Imagine, for example, if Corin, when he gets to that crossroads, he's thinking all or nothing. I either take this road and I go back home, or I take this road and I go to Athoria, where everything changes and I become this amazing writer. Instead of thinking all or nothing, think, what if Corin had taken just 10 steps on that path? And he takes 10 steps. I can see a little farther through the mist, but I'm going to go back. I'll try more tomorrow. The next day he comes back. He gets to the crossroads. I'm going to take 20 steps today. These little steps are gradually going to take him where he wants to go. And the further he goes on that new path, the more he's going to feel familiar with it. And he's more confident in going that direction rather than this direction. We do the same thing in our lives. Every little tiny change we make that is as if we are already that successful writer, as if we are already in that identity, it becomes easier and easier and easier until eventually it's just the natural next step for you to be that successful writer you want to be. So here's your mission of the week. Are you ready? I have 3 questions for you, so you might want to write these down somewhere. The first question is to ask yourself, what does success mean to you right now? And what do you fear that it might cost you? And the second question is, what would you love for success to mean instead? And this is your chance to craft a path to a success that you want. The type of success that can make you think, oh yeah, I want to go there, and there's no resistance there. And the third question is, what one small action can I take that reflects the writer I want to become? In other words, that's the act as if question. So answer those questions when you have a minute. Hopefully those will help you get unstuck if you're feeling stuck right now, or will help you go ahead and take the next step that you might be afraid of taking. Most of us, wherever we are in our writing lives, are standing on the edge of change. And that change is usually scary to us. But in my experience and the writers I've spoken with, the changes that we go through, they always end up taking us to a better place. So we just have to learn how to face those fears that may be coming up. And I think if you can think of it in terms of who you are and your identity, then it may help you take a big leap forward on that misty path to the left. If you got value from this video, please hit the like button and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.